Hello everyone, I'm super excited for this new reading bullet journal, and today I'm going to do three things. First of all, I'll set up my prompts and pages for the adventures in Eldia. Then I'm going to update my bullet journal for the month of January and then set up my month of February. Now I'm going to explain what the adventure in Aldia is. So it was created by the Book Rose. I'll leave her channel in the description below, but basically she created an entire fantasy universe that has reading challenges. So I was super excited to participate this year because in 2024, I think it was the end of the year, I discovered her channel and all of its reading challenges. So I was like, okay, when it's 2025, I'm for sure joining the challenge. And so, for example, here it is an adventure board that brings a new reading prompt with one book per month. And so my goal is to complete the board using the books I already have, whatever it is, physical copies or on my Kindle. And so, for example, the game kicks off with a prompt book published in 2024, which is perfect since I'm currently reading Emily Wilde's Map of Otherlands. So I know that she did something similar for the previous year, so feel free to check out her channel because maybe you'll like a certain adventure more. And she also does other reading challenges throughout the year. The two main ones are the autumn equinox and spring one, and it's essentially that your character is going to the Orleum Academy, which is a magical school. And basically, if you want to learn a certain skill, let's say art of illusion or astronomy, or I'm just looking at the paper, shape shifting, depending on which class you choose, you have some reading prompts. So I thought it was a really cool concept. I'll for sure try to participate in those as well. But once again, she has many reading challenges, so feel free to check out her channel, especially if you love the fantasy aspect. I think that you'll definitely love this sort of games. So I printed the map in the A5 size since it's the size of my notebook, but I've noticed that it was barely fitting, which is why in the beginning I showed the wavy scissors I used to kind of cut the borders, and everything fits, so I'm really happy about that. Here I'm just updating my reading progress. Now it's time to do my spread for the book Emily Wilde Map of the Otherlands, which is the second book in the Emily Wilde series. So one thing I can say is that the first book was my favorite book of the year 2024. So I did have high expectations for this one, and it definitely didn't disappoint. I won't talk about the plot because I want to keep this video as spoiler-free as possible, especially for those that haven't read book 1 yet, since pretty much all the actions in book 2 are closely, if not directly related to what happened in book 1. But I'll talk about my overall thoughts and opinion, and also talk a little bit about the writing style, the characters and stuff, while I'm doing my spread. In terms of writing style, it stayed the same in book 2 as it was in book 1, so it's a diary writing style, and as a reader it just feels like we're reading Emily's diary, which is not the typical one we think about, where we just write about our day and thoughts. It's actually about her explorations. And so the main difference between book 1 and book 2 is that book 1 was solely focused on her explorations, whereas book 2, she has a quest. So that's why her journal entries, I would say, were different, because I feel like in book 2 it had more urgency, and so that's why it felt like the pace was faster. Because one thing I did hear about this series a lot, especially for book 1, is that the pacing is really slow, and I do agree with that, because you did have some chapters where not much was happening, But when it did happen, when we did have some events, it felt like a recollection of small moments because they weren't really connected with each other, I would say, since it was more an exploration. So she would see one thing, she would experience one thing and another in the same place. But the actual events, I wouldn't say had much connection between each other. Whereas in book 2, since it's a quest, everything kind of like made sense and stayed aligned, which is why the pacing actually felt faster. And if you're someone who likes like quest in fantasy, I think you'll like book 2 way more than book 1. You might actually think that book 1 is quite slow because, as I said, you don't have that sense of urgency, just maybe in a few chapters. Another thing that I loved in this book is the way the author described the fairy doors and how you can travel to this fairy lands and stuff, which is why I actually put a big fairy door stickers on my spread. So now I'm doing my quick review spread. I did explain in a previous video why I create this spread, so feel free to check out this video. I'll either link it down below in the description box or somewhere up here. But basically, I write more technical stuff about the book here. For the book of the month, I picked What You're Looking For is in the Library. I really didn't expect it because I was sure that I would pick The Map of the Outer Land, so the second book in the Emily Wilde series. But this book just like blew me away and I would recommend it to anyone. I'll give you a bit more details later when I'll do the spread. And here I'm just updating my other pages that I have for the month of January. And here's a finished spread. I just need to put the book cover as a final touch. Now it's time to update my book bracket. So for the month of January, it was super hard because every single read I had was amazing. I gave this War of Keegan 4.5 stars. This book that you see on the video in English is called What You're Looking For is in the library. I gave it 5 stars, and then the second book of the Emily Wilde series, I gave it 5 stars as well. But I end up picking this one that you see on the video because I feel like it just touched my soul in such different way, and it's a book that I would recommend to any adult going through different stages in their life. It's a fiction genre with a touch of magical realism, so I think it's definitely a genre that a lot of people can read, and the things that you kind of take away from these books are super useful and unique, so I would recommend this book to anyone. Now I'm doing the spread for the book called What You're Looking For is in the library, and the genre is Asian contemporary and also fiction with a touch of magical realism. In terms of plot, we're kind of following the journey of multiple different adults going through different stages in their life. It's made of 5 short stories, but basically what links them together is this magical library that you have in Tokyo. The library itself is not magical. Who is magical is the librarian who works there, because whenever someone comes there, she recommends them a book that their soul needs to hear. So I honestly loved it. I didn't expect it because that's not a genre that I usually read, like fiction. And also I have never read an Asian contemporary book. And I was really pleasantly surprised because it became my book of the month. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, I would recommend this book to anyone, especially to adults going through different stages in their life, through different transitions and stuff. So the book is amazing. As I said, the pace was great. It was really a calming read. You could pick up this book at any moment of the day, and it was just such a pleasant, calming read. So I'm really excited about doing this spread. And for the spread, I decided to use the washi tape set from Notebook Therapy, which is the Sakura Breeze. I thought it was really fitting knowing that the book is set up in Tokyo. And here I'm finally doing my February setup. So I'm keeping it really similar, or I would say pretty much the same as I did in January. So I'm planning to read at least 3 books this month of February. Basically what I did during January. And so I'll start the month with The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, which is a young adult fantasy dystopian. Then another read I really want to read this month is The House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin Craig. It's a young adult fantasy, gothic horror, and fairy tale retelling. And the retelling is Barbie, movie The 12 Dancing Princesses. Then the third book I really want to read because it has been on my physical TBR for at least 1 year and a half. It's A Dream So Wicked by Tessonia Odette, which is a fairy tale retelling of The Sleeping Beauty, and the genre is dark fantasy. So I'm actually skipping the book club page because for those that watched my January video, you know that I had a book club page and the club picked The Sword of Keegan, and I really enjoyed that read. But for this month of February, I didn't connect with any picks, so I decided to skip that and just write my quick reviews on this page. I updated everything for the month of January and I'm all set for the month of February. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and see you all in another one soon. Bye!